My name's Danielle, but I like to be called Danny. Okay. I am in Palesrine, in the West Bank, in Ramallah. Yesterday we went to visit Hebron with a guide from Breaking the Silence called Yehuda, I think. It's called the Ghost Town. It was quite emotionally draining because you could see all of the damage the settlers had done after the second Intifada, especially.
Some of the way down to Hebron to give some historical background to the reality in Hebron today. Sunday. We'll get to the settlement of Kiryat Arba, which is a big settlement outside of Hebron. We'll sit down a bit, give some political background on what's the situation today in Hebron, and we'll go into Hebron. Called the Nakba, what we call the War of Independence. Yeah. And you spoke about the Six-Day War in 1967, when Israel occupies the West Bank and Gaza. Yeah, these are kind of like the important events when we talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But when we come to Hebron, these are not the most important events. The most important event in the historiography of Hebron, we believe, took place about 3,700 years ago. Yeah, I know it sounds like ancient history, but for people who live here, on both sides, it's not ancient history. And that is the biblical story of Abraham purchasing a cave, burying his wife Sarah. Later on, he's buried there, the tomb of the patriarchs. A year after, a settler is stabbed in the roundabout. 2 days after, Israeli military bulldozers come, clean the leftovers of the market, and the place is open only for settlers. I get the first briefing from my company commander, opens the maps, H1, H2, good guys, bad guys, yeah? Basic orientation. And then my platoon officer takes me to the grenade machine gun post. It's a classroom, yeah? Tables near the window, sandbags on top of the tables, machine gun on top of them so it doesn't move, and it's in the height of the window. And explains me, look Yuda, Abusnena, you see these in these buildings? They shoot, we shoot back. Now the first second I heard my mission, I freaked out. What are you, insane? This is a neighbor, people have no way we shoot. But that's 12 o'clock. 6 o'clock it gets dark, and 6:15 Palestinians are shooting, and the order comes out through the radio and what, you're not going to shoot? This is why we're here. They're now shooting the settlement. And you know it's insane, but the next night you're less tense, the third night you're less tense, and after a week that's the most exciting moment of the day. Just like playing a video game, remember the feeling? Yeah, playing with a joystick.
And they have Palestinian coins. Palestinian coins, all Palestinian money. This is before him. Here 40 shekels. See, not China.
Youth Against Settlements are running a campaign called Save Yehuda Street, It's a protest around the world to try and reclaim one of their streets in Hebron that used to be a vegetable and fruit market. The date of the protest is the 27th of February, which is the same day that many years ago the Ghoulstone massacre occurred, where a doctor from a settlement entered a mosque and killed 29 Muslims who were innocently praying. He was renowned, and his grave is now in a local park, and he is seen as a hero by the local settlers.
Taking a shot.
يا شيخ هاشم هاشم في عندهم تحكمية.
Since June 67, the West Bank has been under Israeli martial law, military law. According to the UN, since 1967, something like at least 760,000 men, women and children, Palestinian men, women and children, have been detained by the military, and many of those have been prosecuted in the military courts. Another military order which we'll hear about this afternoon when we go to the village, we're going to the village of Abi Saleh. That village has, every Friday they have a demonstration against the settlement. We'll hear more about that when we're in the village. There's a military order that's been in place since 1967 that says if more than 10 Palestinians gather and protest, that's against the military law, and you can be arrested and prosecuted in the military. Essentially what they've done is they haven't invented some new strategy, but the strategies that they do use are as old as the hills, but they have implemented them extremely effectively. And essentially they consist of two components: collective punishment and mass intimidation. And that's essentially how it works. And we'll see a bit of that when we go to the village this afternoon.
We have thought of 6 recommendations that we believe will not only protect the individual child from abuse, but will hopefully break the system which is in place. And these recommendations are the following: no night raids except in exceptional circumstances. That will spare not only the child the fear and scare, but also will spare the family and the entire village. Every child must be told his rights in a language that he understands, basically in Arabic, before interrogation. Every child has the right to silence, and he must be told that he has the right to silence. Every child has the right to see a lawyer, and he must be told this in very clear language before interrogation. A kind of related recommendation is that every child must have access to a lawyer before he is interrogated. Every child must be allowed to have his parent present during interrogation. It gives a sense of safety and security if the child's father is sitting in the interrogation room, rather than the child being alone with this adult who is quite aggressive. Every interrogation should be audio-visually recorded. That doesn't only protect the child from abuse, but it will protect the interrogator from false allegations. You know, if I'm an interrogator, I would probably want a camera or a tape recorder in the room to prove that I didn't, do anything wrong against the child. And finally, which I think is the most important recommendation, is that if any of the above recommendations are not implemented, that the prosecution is discontinued. Otherwise, there will be no incentive for the interrogators, for the police, to implement these other recommendations. At the moment, because of the pressure, outside pressure, we see Israelis kind of telling the child you have the right to silence, but still threatening him and sometimes physically abusing him. And when these facts are presented to the judge will say, okay, I take note of these things, still I'm going to admit the evidence. So there's no incentive for these interrogators not to abuse their children. That is why recommendation number 6 is quite important.
Take that kid photo.
My name's Elliot and I'm 17 years old and I live in Forest Gate, and I am a member of the Newham Woodcraft Folk.
How about you?
We are in the Area D hostel in Ramallah in the West Bank. Today we went to Nabi Salah, which is a small town, I think of about 600 people, and the town is surrounded by settlements, so I think they call it a high friction area, because there are Jewish settlers all around it. And we went into this family's house and they told us what it's like to live under occupation. And outside the house they had like this framework like the size of this bench, and from it they had hanging all of the tear gas canisters and all of like the bullets and stuff that had been fired near their house, and they had them hanging up outside.
Anything else you're particularly looking forward to do in the West Bank?
Look forward to is a weird expression to use, because there's so many important things that I think need to, like, today was hard, but it was important, and I don't know if I knew what was going to happen, I don't think I would have been looking forward to it, but I feel more complete that I have done it, and more stuff like that, more stuff like today.
The deepest wall in the world, 9,000 years. So it's very simple. It was a very strong kingdom that time. Many nations tried to attack it and destroy it, but the Roman who did that and destroyed the Asian Shakir and built the new city in this area and named it as Geneva.
The Palestinian people are all very lovely. It's really refreshing to see them. Like, every single person is always very welcoming and very hospitable to us. They've all been very open, telling our stories, and you know, you can see that all of them are extremely brave to keep going on, keep fighting against the Israeli occupation.
Yes.
Yay!
So they did it in Arabic. We translated it to French and to English. We translated the first one to French and the others to English. We did the first one with the kids under 18 and the others with the university students, like from 18 to 22. The most people who participated in this project, there were like girls, because they found this is a way to share their dreams, their stories, and like something like respectful.
It's strange to see such a heavy weight and such like oppression put on all the people, but then everyone there is so happy and hospitable. Someone we spoke to said that under occupation you don't have time to bother yourself with social problems, because the only thing that you find really is the Israeli military. We went to a visit called Nabi Salah, and we went to visit a woman called Manat Tamimi and her family. We all sat down in a room not really knowing what we were expecting, and they showed us a 40-minute video, just horrific violence from the Israeli military on her, like a tiny village of 600 people, and like 190 people had been injured, 100 people have been arrested, 2 people have died in the last 3 years. It's pretty fucked up. Nablus is really lovely. Really enjoyed it there. We went on a tour with a guy called Mustafa, and he told us about what happened when there was during the second Intifada, I think it was in 2002, and everyone in the city, or there was massive fights going on in the city, and like the Israeli military were just like, I don't exactly know how one-sided the fight was, but then the Israeli military decided to start bombing areas, and they started bombing loads of housing areas, and then they started bombing the old city, and he took us to a bit where the old city had been bombed, and he said that this is where they decided that enough is enough and we have to surrender so that they don't destroy the soul of the city and all the culture that thrives in it. After that, they rounded up everyone between 15 and 50 who was male and handcuff them and put them in like horrible conditions with dirty water and little food for 20 days. That's also pretty fucked up. It's all a bit fucked up. I'm very seriously looking into 2 different places to volunteer at the end of the school year next year. And I think everyone wants to come back. It's a bit of a strange place, and everyone says that you fall in love with Palestine as soon as you come here.
I'm in Bethlehem, and we've gone to visit a refugee camp, and we met some of the young people that go to this like group called Beautiful Resistance, and they taught us how to like dance and stuff. It was really cool. Yeah.
If you had one word to choose to describe the whole of your experience in Palestine, what would you choose?
I think the word I'd have to use would be mind-blowing. That's 2 words, but just not just in the sense that it's been so shocking, the horrible things going on here, but just absorbing like all the good things about this country and the culture and stuff is just been really nice and really eye-opening and mind-blowing.
Educational or inspiring, because like the people, but yeah, I don't know.
It's not one word, but it's like life-changing. Yeah.
Powerful.
I want to say curious, but that's not quite the right word. Sort of like curious, but just sort of a strange thing that happened. A strange thing that's happening, but I don't know the word for it.
Phrase? Eye-opening, I guess. I don't know.
To describe my experience in Palestine, I'd probably call it profound.
Yeah, phenomenal.
pivotal.